Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we are working on swapping out my switch panel system. For years I had a 6-panel system from S-Tech and it worked great for what I needed, but I've added some things over the years and I've kind of ran out of buttons and I didn't want to add a second one, so I'm actually switching over to a Switch Pros. So we're going to be removing the S-Tech from there and from underside the Jeep here, going over to the Switch Pros, which is a solid slate system, and to a 12 button panel. Obviously the 12 buttons, I'll be able to do a lot more inside the Jeep. I'll kind of show you where I end up putting it, but the basic idea is going to be right here. Easier to reach than something up here, especially when I am strapped in and on an obstacle of some kind and I need to adjust or turn off a locker or whatever it might be. So follow along, guys. There's going to be a lot of different things I'll show on this one. So, and I'll also do a little separate video just kind of comparing the two systems once I kind of have the S-Tech out of the Jeep. All right, guys, thank you. Follow along. All right, guys, when it comes to installing your own switch panel, everyone's going to kind of set it up a little differently depending on your vehicle. Which thing you're going to install first. So I still haven't installed this. I'm going to do it next. The idea is back in that corner. But one thing I wanted to make sure was the cord for the piece inside was long enough. Where I'm wanting to put it, I wanted to make sure it was ran underneath, and then you can kind of see right there, make sure there's enough room. So in the instructions, one cool thing is they had a cutout. So let me try to get this out of the way. So I went ahead and made a copy, so a little template, that way you can go ahead and mark where you want to mount it. So if you're going to put it on a console like this is the console from GenRight, as you can see, as I have part of the panel off so I can access it. Nice little template. It's got where the harness is going to go through, the mounting screws, and I'm going to want it basically right there, right above the shifter. You're not going to really be in the way, not going to bump it because of how thin, it really is. So that's going to be, a perfect spot just right there. So that is pretty handy to be able to have a nice little template like this. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark that template. All right, quick update on the panel next to the shifter. I got the holes drilled and it's mounted. Now I don't have it mounted from underneath. I still got the bolts or the nuts, as you can tell. But as you can see, it is nicely done. We got plenty of room with the shifter. Nothing in the way. Still, when it's down, you got plenty space all right there. So nice location. Again, reason I wanted it there first up here is when you're strapped in all the way back, it can be hard sometimes trying to reach that if I needed to unlock maybe the rear or front differential or anything. So Alrighty, I got the switch panel mounted up. One thing to think about, now what did I do with it? I attempted to use something like this, just a real light impact in there, but don't do that. I ended up stripping out the back of the switch panel, so something to think about. I ended up hand tightening the other three. It's nice and tight, it's not going anywhere, but the other one is definitely stripped out. There are two other locations. If I was really worried about it, I'd take it off and drill a hole for that, but this thing's tight, it's not going anywhere. It's connected, so this part is done inside, nice and tight like I said, but something to think about. Even though I was going nice and slow, it still was too much and it stripped it out. So don't use any form of impact. All right, on to the next part. I got the panel in, kind of the brain of the operation. It was a big pain in the butt. I didn't really want to show kind of everything because, well, it took me a long time and I had a lunch break and all kinds of other stuff. So my first idea was trying to self-tap it, but that did not work as the end was actually too big to fit. And you can kind of see right there, oh, I kind of boogered it up a little bit. So somehow, using the provided screw and the nut on the back side. So on the TJs and LJs, this is actually where the PCM goes. Now, I've got an LS, and by no means is this a clean swap. You don't need to look how ugly this is, but I don't have the factory PCM anymore. So I used that plate and was able to mount it. And somehow I was able to get the nuts on the back side and tight. So now I'm going to start the wiring. Now, unfortunately, because of the battery cable, the reason why I put this here, this kind of powers that, and it's not super long, so I didn't want to try to extend this. The reason why I put it over here. Some of the wires I'm going to have to extend because the old system was over on the passenger side. The new system is on the driver's side. It just kind of is what it is. Some I'm going to shorten because my locker setup is actually right here. So the wires are actually running all the way over. So those will actually get shortened, but some of the other ones will get extended or just moved. I should actually have enough wire for some of the other ones I'm plugging back in. So, all right, on to that fun stuff. Alrighty, we got wires. So, all the different wires, get everything hooked up. I got the black wire straight to the battery. This wire will be to ignition. I actually had a hole already through the firewall for the ignition before. And I'm just going to use that again. And basically, I'll tap it. And do that through the junction box from inside. That way, key on will power the whole touch panel system. That way it doesn't stay on all the time through the battery, and it'll turn on via the key. And when the key is on, everything turns on the way it should. So now we get to do some wiring. Yay! I kind of hate wiring, but in the end is actually very simple. It's just take your time. That's the biggest thing with wiring. Alright, I got a nice little heat shrink. I got a nice DeWalt heat gun to make that happen. I am going to leave most of this wire. I'll just kind of roll it up just in case for whatever reason I do need to trim it, cut it, redo this for whatever. I have wire to be able to do that. So we'll get that in. Actually, I need to go find a fuse. It did say in the instructions to add another fuse here. I need to go see if they provided another fuse or if I need to go find one. I'm not sure why they say to add a fuse if they do not provide one, but either way, I need to go find another fuse to add right there before I plug it in. Alright guys, we're going to do some wiring today. So I've got some already moved over. So I'm going to first do the lockers is what I'm going to set up. When I took everything off, I made sure I labeled. That way I have everything correctly. And then one other thing I found yesterday when I was messing with this is I actually installed it upside down. So when I was installing the stickers, as you can see, I put some of the stickers in. I noticed that it was upside down, and I had done that on accident because the cover plate, which is this little piece, was on upside down. So now I've had this kit for a couple months and I just haven't done anything with it yet. And I know I've kind of looked at it and messed with it. So chances are I probably actually took that cover plate off and just wasn't paying attention and put it back on. So I'm glad I noticed I did that now, because all the numbers would have been upside down with orientation. And if I would have wired everything, try to figure out what was going on, it would not have been working, and that would have been very bad, very annoying. So thankfully I noticed that before I continued too far. And for now, we're going to do some wiring. So we'll get set up on that. Now one nice thing about their kit, so as you can tell, there's a lot of wires for different things. Their instructions is very detailed with what everything is. So just take your time and read the instructions over and over, which I have done. Alright, now I know these are heat shrink, which is what I use this handy dandy tool for. But I still like to cover it with the black. Just makes the overall end product look that much better. And I know I left a lot of room. I'll probably, once I'm done with all my different wiring, I'll come back through with electrical tape. The kit also comes with this conduit type stuff, and I'll probably also put that all together in some fashion. So something to think about, but I'll do that at the end to try to clean it up, to put stuff kind of out of the way. All right, now we'll do the rear locker, which is this blue wire. One nice thing about number 5 and 6, which is where I have the front and rear lockers, is that they are on kind of the far side. So when I will do this and make it clean, I'll be able to kind of, make that actually pretty clean. So, and again, number 5 and 6, we've already ran the light blue ignition. That's this one. I ran into the cab. All right, for now, those two are done. I've got some other wires I need to extend for the rock lights and the front. Why am I blanking? We need to move the rock lights, and then, oh, my light bar. Man, why can't I remember freaking light bar? So now I'll need to extend the rock light wire, kind of move it over here, and then I will extend the light bar light and move it on over. That way I can get it done and wired in also. All right, the Jeep is going along nicely. We got a bunch of different stuff wired up. I got the fan. I got some stuff ran over here. The rock lights and the light bar. I'll get those set up here soon. Also have the passenger heated seat set up and wired in and made sure that worked. Everything is powered up with the Switch Pros. And one thing I wanted to show you, if you ever have PRP seats, the first time I wired in, I just went real basic, just wired in. And I also had them set up on the same switch on the old system, because I actually didn't have enough switches to be separate, passenger and driver. So when they were on, both were on. Now I could have gotten out and pulled out the wiring harness and switched them off individually because I had left the whole harness on, which comes with the on-off switch. So I just switched it on, plugged it into the power switch. So what I'm going to do now is actually remove all of this. So basically what I'm going to do is, I've already tested on the other side, is this yellow wire is the power wire for both the cushion and the back for the PRP seat, and these two black wires are ground. So I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to connect this power wire to this power wire that is already ran up underneath the Jeep. That way I don't have to snake it again. And then I'll circle it, or not circle it, I'll route it up in the under the hood. So yeah, I'll do that real quick and I'll kind of show you when that's done. Alrighty, I got it all wired up. So again, just that yellow wire actually splits off. There's a splitter that goes to both the cushion and the back. So yellow wire wired, and then I just took the ground straight to the there we go, you actually see something, straight to the body. That way it's simple. If I ever need to remove it, it's right there. If I ever have to cut this wire, you know, it's something simple. So I can slip this over, keep it tucked in, and my actually this is my driver's seat, will be wired in nicely into the Switch Pros. Slowly but surely, we're getting it done. And if you want, I can show you real quick. Just all light it up. So when one is activated, that's what it'll do. This will be my fan. I just don't have a sticker on it yet. So yeah, good times. Alright, I'm getting pretty close to being done with this project. Definitely has taken me some time, but when it comes to wiring, I usually take my time. So real quick, I got it fairly cleaned up. By no means am I a wiring expert or super clean, but I got the ones I'm not using kind of tucked away, out of the way. I got some looms going across just in an attempt to somewhat clean it up. I know it still definitely looks like a jumbled mess, and definitely some things I can do to clean that up, and one of these days it's going to be a project. But one thing I definitely want to show you guys is just how smart this thing is. Alright, as you can see, I got a lot of things labeled. I actually still need to put something here. One thing I also wanted to show you is the app. And this is by far what changes, or what differentiates Switch Pros from almost any other panel system. So if I'm in the app, look at that. I can just turn stuff on. Now, one other cool thing about the app is you can change switches. So, let me show you real quick. Let's see here. All right. So real quick, that light's kind of in the way. There are 17 programmable wires that Switch Pros comes with. And any switch can power up to 4 different items through that panel. Even though there's only 12 buttons, you can have 17 different items actually programmed. And that is one of the things that by far differentiates Switch Pros from any other company that I know of. And it's unbelievable. So, just real quick, kind of show you, like if you're going to configure, and then we would want to switch outputs. And you can name everything. So I haven't gone through and named it, but as you can see, output 1, 2, 3, how you can program it. So originally output 9 is actually 2 15 amps put together for 30 amp. And you're supposed to wire the 2 wires together. Well, I changed it to 13, even though there's only 12. And now that is my halos. So that's one of the things you can do, and you can change different outputs. So say I got more halos, I can do that. Or say switch 10. Switch 10 is my light bar. If I wanted to add a second light bar, then I can go in and wire it to 14. And then both light bars would come in at the same time. Another cool thing is memory. Oh, not memory. Which one am I looking for? So this is one thing you can change output, whether it stays on or off with the battery. You can do all the strobe, flash. I have all those off, I don't care. Whether the ignition or battery, so you can actually have it to where it's on all the time. You can also switch it to momentary. So momentary is if you press it, much like you're trying to start the vehicle, and you want to let go, then it stops. So I might wire in my starter into it. Alright, the other thing I wanted to show you, and I just remember where it was memory. So you go into memory, and right there, for electric fan, we want memory to be on. So every time, if I leave this on, wherever it's at, so we want to turn the fan on. So fan, turn the Jeep off, wait for it to power off. Next time I go turn the Jeep on, fan comes on. So for me, by far, that's one of the cooler features of this. I can do that to where I'm not always having to press that fan button to attempt. That way I don't forget to turn it on, because that would be a very bad thing since I have it wired into here. I might do that with the halos also. I have halos on my headlights and my light bar. I like running it sometimes, just all the time. It's just a basic halo, not red or not an RGB thing. So this thing has a lot of options to it. It's unbelievable, actually. And at first it's a little overwhelming until you get into the app, and then some things definitely start to make sense. If you are looking into a switch panel of some kind for your Jeep and you want the utmost controllability, I don't know if there's anyone else other than Switch Pros. I mean, I'm blown away actually by how cool this is. And I even called the buddy once I figured it out. I texted my wife, told her how excited I was. Of course, she doesn't care as much as I do. And we talked for a minute with my buddy, but he's also at work. So, but it's really amazing, and I'm really excited about it. For the most part, this is done. Small little button ups. I appreciate you guys watching the whole thing. If you get to this point, you guys need to check out Switch Panel. or Switch Pros for your panel system, guys. It's amazing. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.